Sarah Martinez stared at the prescription bottle in her hand like it was evidence at a crime scene. 30 days of seizure medication. 30 days of watching her 5-year-old son Ethan deteriorate while everyone told her the medicine just needed time to work. But time wasn't improving anything. Time was making it worse. The first doctor had been confident. Epilepsy, classic presentation. Start the meds, follow up in a month. Sarah had wanted to believe him. She desperately wanted the clean diagnosis, the simple solution, the promise that pills would fix everything. But mothers don't get the luxury of blind faith when their children are suffering, and Sarah's gut was screaming that something else was wrong. The seizures weren't responding to medication, they were increasing. Ethan's personality was changing. He was quieter, more withdrawn, struggling with coordination he'd mastered years ago. Sarah documented everything: times, durations, triggers, behaviors. She showed up to the follow-up appointment with pages of observations, certain the doctor would see what she was seeing. Instead, she got a lecture about patience. "Mrs. Martinez, you're not a neurologist. These medications take time to reach therapeutic levels. You need to trust the process." The doctor barely glanced at her notes before writing another prescription. "Higher dose, give it another month. Stop worrying so much." But Sarah couldn't stop worrying because she wasn't worrying, she was observing. There's a difference between anxiety and instinct. Anxiety is fear without foundation. Instinct is pattern recognition your conscious mind hasn't caught up with yet. And every cell in Sarah's body was screaming that epilepsy wasn't the whole story. She sought a second opinion. The new neurologist reviewed Ethan's chart, ran the same EEG, looked at the same brain scans. "I concur with the original diagnosis," he said, as though consensus between two doctors made something true. "Your son has epilepsy. The treatment is correct. You need to give it more time." "But his symptoms are getting worse," Sarah pushed back. "He's losing motor skills. He's having trouble with speech. The seizures aren't decreasing." That's not unusual during the adjustment period. The second doctor's tone was patient in that particular way that makes you feel like you're being unreasonable. "I understand you're scared, but second-guessing medical professionals isn't helping your son. It's just creating unnecessary stress." Sarah left that appointment feeling smaller than when she'd arrived. Maybe they were right. Maybe she was just a frightened mother projecting her fears onto symptoms that had reasonable explanations. Friends told her to listen to the experts. Her own mother suggested she was being overprotective. Even her husband, Mark, started gently suggesting maybe she should stop researching online, stop questioning every decision, stop making Ethan's illness her entire identity. But it wasn't her identity. It was her responsibility. And every time she watched Ethan struggle to stack blocks he used to build into towers, every time she saw him stare into space mid-sentence like his brain had briefly unplugged, every time a seizure hit and the medication did absolutely nothing, Sarah knew. She didn't have a medical degree, but she had 5 years of knowing this specific human better than anyone else on Earth. At 3 in the morning, when sleep wouldn't come, Sarah sat in Ethan's room watching him breathe. That's when she made the decision. She didn't care how many doctors dismissed her. She didn't care how many people thought she was obsessive or difficult or refusing to accept reality. She was going to find someone who would actually listen. The third doctor was different from the first appointment. Dr. Chen was younger, a specialist in pediatric neurology who'd spent years researching rare conditions. When Sarah walked into her office with her binder of observations, Dr. Chen didn't sigh or check her watch. She leaned forward and said, "Tell me everything." For the first time in months, Sarah felt heard. Not tolerated, not managed, heard. She walked Dr. Chen through every symptom, every progression, every detail that had been dismissed as parental overreaction. And Dr. Chen listened, really listened, asked questions, made notes, nodded at things that clearly resonated with something in her medical experience. "I want to run some different tests," Dr. Chen said finally. "Not an EEG, we have plenty of those. I'm thinking metabolic panel, genetic screening, advanced imaging. There are some rare neurological conditions that can present like epilepsy but require completely different treatment. Your observations suggest we might be looking at something more complex." Sarah felt tears burning her eyes. Not relief exactly. They didn't have answers yet, but validation. After months of being treated like her concerns were symptoms of anxiety rather than data worth investigating, someone was finally taking her seriously. The tests took 2 weeks. 2 weeks of waiting, hoping, and trying not to let herself believe too hard that maybe she'd been right all along. When Dr. Chen called with results, Sarah's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. "Sarah, I need you to bring Ethan in. I found something." Dr. Chen's voice was steady, professional, but Sarah could hear the edge of significance beneath it. "Your son doesn't just have epilepsy. He has a rare mitochondrial disorder that's been causing seizure-like symptoms along with progressive neurological decline. It explains everything you've been documenting: the motor skill regression, the speech difficulties, why the epilepsy medication wasn't working. We need to start a completely different treatment protocol immediately." The diagnosis Sarah's instincts had been screaming about for 6 months was finally confirmed. The condition 2 other doctors had missed because they were so certain of their initial assessment. The truth that had been there all along, visible to anyone willing to actually look at the patient instead of just the charts. 3 months after starting the correct treatment, Ethan was a different child. The seizures virtually stopped, his motor skills returned, his personality came back. The bright, curious kid who built ridiculous block towers and asked questions about everything. Sarah would watch him play and feel waves of gratitude mixed with rage. Gratitude that she'd kept pushing, rage at how close she'd come to accepting the wrong answer because experts told her to stop questioning. Dr. Chen called one afternoon just to check in. "How's Ethan doing?" "Amazing," Sarah said. "It's like we got our son back." There was a pause. Then Dr. Chen said something Sarah would remember forever. "You saved his life, you know? If you'd accepted the epilepsy diagnosis, if you'd stopped pushing, this condition would have kept progressing. The damage would have been irreversible. You did what a lot of parents can't do. You trusted yourself more than you trusted credentials." That night, Sarah sat in Ethan's room again, watching him sleep. But this time, she wasn't watching for seizures or counting breaths in fear. She was just watching her son be okay, be healthy, be the person he was supposed to be, the one she'd fought to protect when everyone told her the fight wasn't necessary. Standing up for yourself isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet persistence. It's showing up to appointment after appointment, even when you're treated like you're overreacting. It's trusting your observations when experts dismiss them. It's understanding that expertise is valuable but not infallible, that credentials don't replace proximity, that sometimes the person closest to the problem sees what distant specialists miss. Sarah learned that trust the process is sometimes just another way of saying stop asking uncomfortable questions, that being labeled difficult is often what happens when you refuse to accept inadequate answers, that the same determination that makes people call you obsessive is exactly what saves lives when you're right. Ethan stirred in his sleep, smiled, settled back into dreams. And Sarah smiled too, because she'd learned the most important lesson of all. Your voice matters. Your instincts are data. And sometimes the bravest, most loving thing you can do is refuse to be quiet when everyone else wants you to disappear.